First Step Alliance has partnered with Coffee. Now, Coffee stands for Knowledge of Financial Education, and it is a part of Consolidated Credit. Now, Coffee is here, as I said, to provide financial education, but also the financial education that we provide, as well as our parent company, Consolidated Credit. It is at no cost to you. So, Coffee prides itself in offering its users or its platform financial counseling as well as other resources. You can have access to budgeting tools, self help resources, all different types of calculators. And you even have the ability to call and have a conversation via phone, or you can chat online with a financial coach. Okay. So I'll give you more information about how to access that First Step Alliance portal that's exclusively for the members and partners of First Step Alliance. But let's get into our presentation, and we're going to talk a little bit about credit. Now, you see there on your slide that credit is your ability to borrow money. And here's just a bit of credit history for you. Now, monitoring credit behavior has been around for as long as merchants have extended credit to others. So I'm going to say about as long as civilization has been here, right? Over time, technology has contributed to the speed at which a credit grantor can make a determination as to whether or not to extend credit to us as individuals. But the concept that were developed back in the late 1800s still form the basis of, of today's credit monitoring and credit decisions. I also like to add to the definition of credit that we share. It says anytime a bank, finance company, or business lends you money and you agree to pay it back at a later date, with mutually agreed upon terms, you're using credit. To me, that goes a little deep because it starts when we're young. So anytime someone loans you anything, even as a child, and you promise to give it back or you promise to pay it back, guess what? You're using credit. Because if I let you borrow my bicycle, like when I was 10 years old, and you told me you would have my bicycle back at a certain time and you didn't, guess what? You could not get my bicycle anymore. So if we use those elementary terms and think about getting money from a creditor and we promise to pay it back and we don't pay it back, guess what? Who's not riding a bicycle? Okay, I think it hit home. I think it makes sense. So let's talk about a credit score. Now, basically, a credit score is a number that summarizes a consumer's risk and can change due to certain factors. Those factors are based on the things that we do as consumers and pretty much our behaviors. Now, we're going to talk about raising that credit score, but first thing we need to come out of the gate with that if our credit score is high or low, it is all dependent upon the behaviors and the mindset. I know I'm getting a little psychological here with regards to how we handle finances. See, remember I said it's due to certain factors and that those factors are based on the things that you and I do. So that's our behavior when it comes to money, right? So if we want to see our credit scores be better, then we need to not possibly, we need to definitely change some of our behaviors. And we're going to talk a little bit about what makes up the credit score so we can really look at what areas we may need to come up in. So let's look at the chart we have here. What makes your credit score? Okay. You see the very largest amount, and let's just go around that table if you don't mind. 35% is credit history, 30% is amounts owed. Let's jump over to the middle over there on the right, that 15% length of credit history. Then you have 10% that is new credit as well as credit mix. Now, you can see there on that chart that the largest chunk of your credit score is computed on your payment history, based upon your payment history. That's simply how often you pay on time versus how often you pay late. Okay? Then pay attention to the 30%, which is amounts owed. That is to put into effect a term called credit utilization. Now, you'll find that you ever attend any other webinars with me and we're talking about credit, I'm always going to bring in my favorite creditor, and I'll just give you the name of the store, not the creditor, and that is Mr. Macy's. Okay. Now, if someone you love, like I love Mr. Macy's, gives you a credit card, and I'm talking about credit utilization, and you have a credit limit of $1,000, that 30%, okay, even though it is used in computing your credit score, this is a nice little tip to remember, and I'll probably say it again later, is that you don't want to go over 30% of your credit limit. Okay, so if Mr. Macy's gave me that $1,000 credit card, I want to make sure I don't go past that 333 and some change. Okay, so I just took a little roundabout way to say that. But I want you to keep in mind that 65% of your credit score is based upon the amounts you owe and how often you pay your payment on time versus how often you pay it late. So, all else being said, we want to ensure that we never pay our payments late, even if we have to pay the minimum, because we always want to pay more than minimum. And we don't ever want our credit utilization to be more than 30%. If it is, we want to make sure we have a plan. I like to say we have a strategy to make sure that we pay it down. Okay? Okay. I could get a little deeper into credit utilization, but I won't for this. I won't. So let's talk about types of credit. No creditor wants to see you with just all bank credit cards or store credit cards. You need to have a nice combination, meaning that they need to see that you're able to pay an installment loan, such as a car loan, maybe furniture, or whatever the case may be, a mortgage. Okay. They need to see that you can definitely handle revolving credit, that you know how to keep it below that 30%. And if it any time is more than 30%, that you are proactive with paying down your debt. You never have all of your credit cards at the very top of your availability. They also want to see that you may have um, some service accounts. Okay, just different credit mix, different types of credits, but not just all credit cards. Okay, so you have to remember that that credit score takes all of that into effect. So 10% of your credit score is credit mix. Also, there's new credit. Now, new credit can be harmful to your credit score if you are, let's say, at holiday time. The world is back open now. And if every store you visit, you are getting that credit card in order to get a particular discount at that retailer. If you're in the process of getting a home or say a business loan, any type of lending product, I want you to put yourself in the head space or in the mind space of a creditor. If they see all of these different inquiries and all this list of different merchant credit cards you have, that lender is going to wonder how in the world are you going to pay them back with all of this opportunity to overspend with your credit cards. Then that 15%, that final piece of the pie, is length of credit history. With length of credit history, this is one thing I want to tell you we don't ever want to do. If we have a credit card that is in good standing, and I'm using credit card because your installment loan, every installment loan, or say a personal loan, a mortgage, a car loan, those loans that you are making payments towards every month, the same amount every month, and they are going to amortize or they're going to pay off at the end of a term. They have a term where whereby they end. Your revolving credits, such as your credit cards, they don't have a termination date. You can just keep paying and using, paying and using. Listen, as long as you pay and use properly, don't close out your credit cards even if you pay them down to zero. Why? Remember when I talked about that credit utilization and I said there was something more I could say about credit utilization? We can use credit utilization cumulatively. I can never say that word with my southern accent. This drawl makes it almost impossible. So let's say collectively, okay? So say for instance you have a credit card that has $5,000 credit limit, but it's not a card that you use regularly. It's your emergency card. Well, you don't need to close it out, okay? And you don't want the creditor to close it out, especially if it's an oldie but goodie, meaning you've had it for a nice amount of time. You want it to just sit there because it's looking good as far as your utilization is concerned, that you have not utilized any funds on that. So say you have another credit card that has a $3,000 limit in it and you're at 2,500. That $5,000 card that you aren't using helps with your total utilization cumulatively. Okay? So that would be a benefit just to keep that card there. As I forestated, you also don't want the creditor to close that card. Your creditor will close that card because they are a for-profit company, and if you're not using that credit card and paying them any interest, they may deem it necessary to cut your relationship. But we're not going to allow them to do that. How are we going to stop them? Simply by you periodically using that card. This is your credit strategy. You're going to use it. You're going to buy something ugly that you don't want, possibly. I don't know. Buy someone a gift, whatever the case may be, but you're going to turn around and you're going to pay it off. Okay. That is using credit as a tool, and that causes them to report that yes, you use, but you also pay, and that credit line is open. Prayerfully, it has some history, and then you're using credit to your advantage. Okay, that's the strategy. Now, credit problems impact your credit score, and we want to just share with you some information with that. Now, listen, this is just general, okay? This is not gospel, but it's pretty close to the truth, okay? This is just general information. I want you to see this chart or the slide that's before you. You have a pretty decent FICO score of 780. I want you to look, each bullet point tells you what happens after one of these incidences occur in your credit life. Okay. So I've been talking a lot about the credit utilization. So maxing out your credit card, look, you can bring that beautiful score of 780 down to between 735 to 755, all dependent upon the credit reporting agency and their different algorithms. All three of the larger ones have different algorithms, so you're never hardly ever going to get the same score. Okay? So come to the next bullet point. 30 days late on your mortgage can bring you from that beautiful 780 down to 670 to 690. So you see how we're going there. Bankruptcy can bring you from that 780 all the way down to between 540 and 560. So you get the gist there from that chart, how things can negatively affect your credit. Now let's look at this particular slide. It's talking about effects of negative credit. Again, pretty good example um, from our calculators, not necessarily gospel truth, but just to give you an idea of how good it is to have good credit. Now, according to Equifax.com, credit scoring is as follows. Listen closely because I don't believe I have a chart for this. You're considered excellent credit if you're between 760 to 850. You're very good from 725 to 759 or thereabouts. You're considered in the good range if you're from 660 to 724. You're fair, yeah, if you're 560 to 659. Okay, I pause for the cause. And then you're considered poor credit from 300 to 559. Okay, so now this is when a lender pulls our credit report, and our credit report that is pulled shows the credit score. This is how they're basing their decisions, okay, of how they're going to, if they're going to give you the loan product that you applied for, and if so, dependent upon how your credit score falls, the terms of your particular credit facility that you're applying for. So let's just use the example we have here on the slide. If you have excellent credit, we're talking about a $15,000 loan. This is just an example, okay? You would get 5% APR, okay, with a $352 payment. Same loan, but you fall in that good range. You would have 10% APR, annual percentage rate, and you see your payment would go up a little bit to 391. And then if you're in the fair range, so you see how with the credit score and the decision that is made, you see the pricing, the difference between the fair pricing and the excellent pricing is an entire 10%. So you can see it behooves all of us to have good credit. So what's on your credit report? Because this is first step of increasing or wanting your credit score to increase. You want to know exactly what's on your credit report. Now, I don't know if you all are having as much trouble seeing that blue hyperlink and underlined information as I am on this blue background. Forgive us for that. Someone with very young eyes had to have created this. And we love the children. We love your young folks. But my goodness, it's a struggle here for these over 50 eyes. But anyhow, I digress. So you need to pull your credit report. Okay. Annualcreditreport.com. There is the web address in that blue underneath there. Hard to read. However, it's there. www.annualcreditreport.com. Now you can pull your credit report. You can get your credit report. It's not going to show the score, but score. Okay. I am very much wanting to know the information on my credit report. Now, I don't exactly know where you all are located, but I'm here in South Florida. Miss Nancy, where are you all? Are you all over or
We are pretty much in the Boston, Massachusetts area.
Austin? Okay, okay. Uh, So here's South Florida. Listen, fraud, scammers, all of the above, identity thieves is something that we have to have a concern about, okay? And I don't know how profound it is in your area, but I think it is not an area in these United States that is not touched with this. That's why, to me, it is so important to get your credit report. Listen, if you go to annualcreditreport.com, you have the ability. I was just informed, like last week before, that during COVID, you were able to get all three of your credit reports from these three major credit reporting agencies. You were able to get them all three every week. It was supposed to have ended sometimes last year, but I've been told that it continues, and we don't know when it will discontinue, that you are able through annualcreditreport.com, that if you want a credit report from each of the three major credit reporting agencies, TransUnion, Experian, and Equifax, they're simply yours for the asking. That's a bit much for me, howbeit ever. I do encourage you to get your credit report, and I have a strategy for it. Get a credit report now. Let's say TransUnion, we have that at the top of the list. Pull your TransUnion credit report. You're going to scour that report to make sure your name, address, any of the trade lines that are on there, that all the information pertains to you. Okay. We'll talk about what to do if it does not a little bit later, but you want to comb through it. 3-4 months down the line, you want to get that credit report from Experian. Okay. Same thing. You want to comb through it. You want to ensure all the information is yours, blah, blah, blah. 3-4 months after that, you want to go ahead and get that one from Equifax. Same thing. We want to go through it, especially if you're thinking about purchasing a home, establishing a business. Okay. You want to make sure that your personal credit is up to par. Okay. That's annualcreditreport.com, or you can dial 877-322-8228 to begin the process with getting your credit report. And it's no, did I mention that it's no cost to you? It is no cost, whether you get all three every week or if you use the strategy I just mentioned. Okay. Now, your credit score, there
Ms.
are
Doris,
various, yes.
my fault. Don't mean to cut you off, but I wanted to add on another helpful thing that I use
Sure.
personally myself. Credit Karma, and I can check it like every other day if I want, and it tells me like my Equifax trans number right up there. It lets me know how much credit card usage and the percentages, school loans, and anything that I have, I can pull right up and be able to budget it and guide it out and keep my credit score up on point. But that's
Oh,
basically Credit Karma. They help you out big time with that right there. Without no soft pulls or hard pulls or whatever, whatnot. So
okay.
just a heads up.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Okay. Now, if you happen to have credit cards already, there's a plethora of ways to get our credit scores now. The gentleman mentioned Credit Karma. You can also, we have this chart here on the slide before you, that if you have any of these credit cards, you you can also retrieve your credit score through that means. Also with American Express cards, your Bank of America, almost every banking platform now as well has the means by which it can give you a credit score, so that you can have, pretty much in mind what your credit score is, and you can be a educated consumer in the case that you go and apply for credit and something comes back drastically different. Okay. This will give you a general idea. Now, yeah, this will give you a general idea, keeping in mind that every one of the three major credit reporting agencies have different algorithms. Okay. So my TransUnion score can be 720. Okay. And my Equifax score can be 750. And then for whatever reason, Experian can come along and be 690. Go figure. Okay. But they all have their different algorithm that they use in order to report your score. Okay. Some will have different information from the other as well, will not include some things. So let's talk about what we need to look for. And I know this might be a little bit out of order. Forgive me for that. As far as the information zones on your credit report. Okay. There are 5 to 6 information zones on your credit report. Okay. You always want to check that personal information. I alluded to that earlier. Okay. Your credit scoring and results. You want to make sure that I believe Citibank is the bank that issues, say, a Home Depot card. I believe they're the bank. If not, forgive me. But you want to ensure that if you have a said Home Depot card, and it'll show, and that Citi is the credit grantor, you want to make sure if that card is paid off or however you've paid it, you've never been late. You want to make sure that it's reporting correctly. Okay. You want to make sure that if there's anything derogatory on there, preferably it is not. But if it is, that is yours. Okay. Because 9 times out of 10, when scammers steal your identity and they use your credit, guess what they're not going to do? They're not going to pay. Okay. So you want to make sure that the information that's being reported is actually yours. You want to make sure if there are any hard pulls, hard credit hits on your credit report, that they are definitely identified by you as being something that you generated, meaning that you went to the creditor. Okay, you went to the bank or you went to the store, however, and you completed a credit application. Okay. Also, there is you may see soft pulls on your credit report that are just marketing things that are done by some creditors. You know how you'll get something in the mail to say you're pre-qualified or you're pre-approved. Those are just general marketing moves that are made and minimal hits on your credit report. And then there is a public record section. If someone has sued you, a lien, anything like that, that's going to show in that section. Okay, you want to make sure that you look in that section. You want to look at your full credit report, because guess what? What if it's not you? What if someone has a similar name, lives in the same town? We see a lot going on with juniors, seniors, and thirds. Junior messes them up sometime. Okay, so we want to just ensure that it's the right name. Okay, and then there's also an added section. It says, what is that section where you're able to say, you're able to put a comment in your credit report. You're able to send to the credit reporting agency, look, you will see from December 2023 until May of 2024, just using something out there, that my bills were not paid on time. This is because I suffered illness, there was an accident, whatever the case may be. You are able to make a notation through the credit reporting agency and have that information in your credit file, so that a creditor pulls your credit report and sees that you've paid well, you've done good for a long period of time, and then all of a sudden we hear tires screeching. We know that something had to have happened. That explanation there will prove to them, so to speak, that yes, indeed, life happened and this is what happened. And you're able to go into as much detail as you like. So let's talk about how long can things that negatively affect our credit report, how long are they out there on our report, to haunt us. Okay. So generally, bankruptcy filings, 10 years from the date of dismissal, if they're dismissed, and Chapter 13 filings will stay for 7 years. 7 is really the magic number here. Civil suits, judgments, they stay on your credit report 7 years from the date of entry. Paid tax liens remain there from the date that they were paid. Unpaid tax liens, of course, indefinite until you pay them, right? Collection or charge off accounts, that's 7 years. That's a government student loan, and we all know that student loans have their own set of nuances. Okay, and then any adverse information, 7 years. So that's why I say 7 is the go-to number, that things will remain on your credit report. So you got some things. Life happened. Now what do I do? What you do is, step one is fix any mistakes. That's why it is so important to get that credit report. And as the gentleman said with Credit Karma, he's able to see his credit report, make sure that if you have the service and if it's being offered through any of your other creditors, that you review your credit report and make sure that if something's wrong on there, okay, I own it, it's mine. But if it's something on there and wrong on there and it's not mine, then I want to make sure that I'm proactive and I correct it. Right. So step one, fix mistakes. Step two, let time heal the wounds. Step three, ask your creditor for help. And then step four is to build positive new credit references. Okay, so step one, fix the mistakes. You find something, you see that it's wrong, you're going to make sure that you contact the credit reporting agency, listing that incorrect information, that list that incorrect information, and they have to prove they're going to get in touch with the credit grantor. They have to prove that it is actually you. Okay, and there's a time frame that it is you that made the mistake. Okay, it's your bad credit that's showing. If they cannot prove it, then it's considered a mistake and it has to be removed. Now, the good thing about annualcreditreport.com is that you can go ahead and dispute an item right there in the website. Okay? You can go right there. They take you by the hand step by step. Well, some of you may say, no, I don't like that. I like paper in hand, whatever the case may be. I want you to write down CFPB. Okay, that's the Consumer Finance Protection Board. They have templates that you can go in to their website and you're able to get the actual letters if you'd like to go ahead and construct those letters from those templates. Then you can go ahead and go to the nearest post office with the lovely staff we have there at the counters at the United States Post Office, and you're going to get that certified mail label and you're able to mail that off, and then you can wait to get that written reply. Everything has to be completed within 30 days, whether it's snail mail, okay, or whether you do it online. Thank you, Miss Nancy. Okay, so you have your choice in that. So now step two. Any questions so far about filing that dispute? Okay. Step two is simply let time heal the wounds. Okay. As the negative information becomes older, it becomes less important on your credit file. So as time passes, it's typically like a wound. It'll heal. Okay. But here's the but. From this point that you discovered, okay, I know better. So as of today, you know better. We're going to do better. So with that being said, we need to make sure we pay everything on time. And if you say, Doris, well, no, I don't know, then this is where we're going to step into step three. And we're going to ask our creditors for some help. Now, as I stated earlier, sometimes, I told you about that area on the credit report whereby you can make that statement. Consumer statement. That's the name of the area, consumer statement. Because sometimes negative information, guess what? We're guilty. It's right. We did it. We admit it. But it was due to some unusual circumstances. Divorce or breakup. Okay. Loss of income. Medical. Anything could happen. Life happens. Now, if you had a good payment history before life happened and you fell behind because of those extenuating circumstances, call your creditor. Call your creditor. If you just lost your mind for a period of time, okay, call the creditor and tell them, I got my mind back and I want to do right. I want to purchase a home. I want to open my business. I got my mind back. Can you help me? Listen, I'm sure they have programs in place that can assist you. Sometimes you can ask them to re-age your accounts, and it just means delete those previous late payments. Now, let me tell you, you have to have been good in order for them to do that. But because of everything going down with COVID, creditors, to me, this is just Doris's opinion, creditors seem to be a lot more forgiving. Okay. So we want to go ahead and ask our creditors for some help. You have not because you ask not. Okay. So we're going to ask. Then we can also, what do we want to do? We want to build positive new credit references. Let me tell you this one thing, building new positive credit references does not necessarily mean that you have to go out and get a new credit card. Hello, somebody. No, we don't have to do that. It does not necessarily mean either that we need to carry high credit card balances, that we need to create a balance on our existing credit cards. No, what we can do is, as I told you earlier, if you have a credit card that is in good standing, you just don't use it, and you've had some credit failures, you want to go ahead, if that creditor has not closed that card, you can simply use that card and pay it off. You're going to use it for something that you would normally pay cash for in the first place. Maybe gas for the car, a little food for the pantry. Okay, we're not going to use it frivolously. Makes sense? Because we have a strategy and we just simply want to build or rebuild, in this case, our credit. So, in the case that, well, too much has happened, it's like a bad relationship, too much has happened and we can't recover, then we can start with a secured card. Now, I know we're familiar with secured cards, and if you're not, of course, I'm going to tell you what they are. A secured card, secured credit card, that is, simply means that you would go to your financial institution, you would apply for a secured card. The banker would require that you would put whatever amount you would want for your credit limit. It can be anywhere from 300 up to 2,000. Put that into a savings account that you have absolutely no access to. They will issue you that secured credit card and you use it just the way you would a normal credit card, but you're going to use it with the mindset of, I'm using this as a strategy to build or rebuild my credit. What is that strategy? Just like I've been saying the whole time, you're going to buy something that you normally would pay cash for. Okay. I described gas in the car, a gift, or buy something ugly and return it. I don't care. We're just going to use it and we're going to immediately, or by the bill payment date, we're going to pay off the entire balance. Okay. And we're going to do that in order for the bank, that financial institution that issued us that secured credit card, so that they can continually report that positive payment that we're using, but that we're paying. Okay. We're not going over that 30% either. Okay. We're keeping everything in good order. Make sense? Now, if something happens and you decide this isn't working for me and you decide not to pay, no harm, no foul. The bank is going to report you negatively. And if you have any default, they will take the money that was in that savings account, okay, that you had to secure it, and they would just use that to cure whatever balance you may owe. But we don't want to go there. I'm just telling you that for information purposes. Okay. So another option for building or rebuilding credit is something called a credit builder loan. Now, to be honest, I have, and I was in banking for a long time, but I have not seen a bank, okay, that offers credit builder loans. However, your credit unions are very good for both the secured cards, secured credit cards, and the credit builder loan. Let me tell you a little something about a credit builder loan. Now, a credit builder loan is a small loan made by some credit unions and some banks, but I just haven't seen the bank, in order to help you build your credit. You can check your local credit unions or banks to see who may offer these particular services, but I already know that the credit union is going to weigh them out. Now, in most cases, you need to have an account with them for a certain amount of time with no overdrafts, no little letters that the people have to send you. Not all credit builder loans are created the same. Now, in some cases, it's not even a loan where you get the money. It may be an account through the bank or credit union where you make monthly payments towards that particular account. And at the end of that term, they will issue you an unsecured credit card for that amount that you paid into that account. However, that amount that is being paid into that account, they still report it to the credit reporting agencies as though you're paying a loan. Now, again, this could be anywhere from $300 to $600, all dependent upon the financial institution. So, credit builder loan, I really, really, really believe that it is worth checking out. Okay. It's a great way to build and rebuild your credit. So we all have some credit responsibilities. And let me tell you about said credit responsibilities as we round the corner here. First responsibility is to borrow only what you can repay. Doris, what do you mean by borrow what you can repay? What I mean by that is, remember I've talked about that 30%, that credit utilization. Ideally, credit is meant to be used as a tool. And credit cards are just a tool that we have in our credit toolbox. Ideally, we borrow, which means we swipe the card, keeping in mind that we're well able to pay off entirely what we swiped. That is ideally. So when I say borrow only what you can repay, we're not looking for the bonus to pay it. We're not looking for check in the mail to pay it. We already know that it's worked out in our budget because we're just simply using credit as a tool, not to get indebted, but as a tool. Okay? Pay your debts promptly. We need you to read and understand your credit card contract, which means a lot of us have where we get the e-bills now. They send them to us. However, you have to go into the account and see the bill. Well, same thing for your notices. We want to make sure that we read them. Avoid buying on impulse. That's for Doris. Notify your creditor if you cannot make payments. You want to report loss of stolen credit cards promptly. Why do we want to do that? Because someone will get them and use them. Okay. Never give your card number over the phone. Listen, unless you initiate the call or you are absolutely certain of the identity of the caller. Know what we can do? If someone calls you from said place and says they need your credit card number, oh, okay, let me call you back. Yeah, that's one way to weed that out. So we want to be very vigilant in protecting our credit. Okay, we have some tips for using your credit. You want to follow your agreement, pay your credit cards according to the terms of your agreement. You want to consider paying online or over the phone to avoid being late, okay, with your payments. Because, if you miss your date, they are definitely going to hit, they don't miss, with a late charge. And now with most credit cards, you do not have per se a grace period. Whatever day it's due, that's the day payment is expected. Do not charge anything more on the card until you have paid off your account balance. Keep your balance at approximately 30% or less if you can. Most experts, financial experts, believe you should keep them at 10%. Okay? Your balances, your credit card balances. And make sure that you read all important information. Always read your statements. Always take a look at your statements, especially if you're getting them sent to you paperless. That's the word I was looking for. Make sure you look at your paperless statements and notices. Some additional tips: don't skip payments because you're going to be charged a late fee and possibly additional penalties. We don't ever want to go over the credit limit because it damages your credit score. And if you actually go over that limit, you can get charged over the limit fees as well. On your credit cards, you definitely want to minimize the use of cash advances simply because the APR for cash advances is more than your normal APR or your interest rate on your credit card. So you do not want to fall into that trap because it could cause you to end up being late and making your payment not affordable. Okay. Don't buy credit card protection. I digress from saying don't buy credit card protection. I just say make sure you read the small print. Credit card protection has been known as something that can be a little costly. And then when it comes time for you to get the benefit, it's very hard, almost impossible for you to get the benefit of what you've paid for over a period of time. Here's just information regarding alternative credit scoring. I believe Equifax Experian, Boost is the most popular al- alternative credit scoring we have out there now. And with that alternative credit scoring, it just simply means that you have to give that entity information to your banking account in order for them to see how you're paying your bills. But it is something that I've been told, I have not tried it for myself, that it does work and it can afford you a higher interest rate. Not interest rate. Oh, brain fog. I lost my word. Okay. Let's talk about real quickly in the scheme of talking about credit cards. And a lot of this we've already reviewed, but let me just give you a statistic. Approximately 15 million United States residents have had their identity used fraudulently. Okay. And it has reported losses of around $50 billion. That's with a B. Okay. And it affects the entire United States, some places more than others. So I spent a lot of time talking about checking your credit report. You see, first thing we have here, check your credit reports at least once per year. But remember, I gave you that strategy. Make sure your personal data is reporting accurately. Okay. Enroll in credit monitoring, LifeLock. I have credit monitoring through my auto insurance. A lot of creditors offer it if you have your credit cards with them. Um, Through my credit union, I have credit monitoring. So it's something good to have. Be careful with your personal information. Make sure we shred. Make sure we just don't throw things in the garbage. Dumpster diving is still happening, especially here in South Florida. Just be careful with your information. Always remember that any of us can get a skinned elbow or a skinned knee when it comes to credit. And it just takes time to recover. It's not an overnight process to rebuild your credit. It takes time, as well as what we talked about initially. That's the changing of our behaviors. Okay. So it's something that you can easily do depending on how far deep you in when it comes to your credit. It's something easy to do because if we just begin to pay our obligations on time, look into the resources as far as the secured credit cards, okay, the credit builder loans, and we can easily get on track. Now, early on, I talked to you about how to go ahead and become part of the coffee family. You see there is a QR code. I have to laugh about the QR code. Be careful with QR codes as well, because that's the new scam that's out there. But this is a legitimate QR code, I assure you. So you can go ahead and register through the QR code. You see the web address there for your own coffee portal through First Step Alliance. And also, there's the phone number there for a conversation with a coffee coach. We call them coffee coaches, they're financial coaches. Okay, so you can either take a picture of this particular slide. I'll give you a moment to do that, because that does end my presentation for today. I hope you found the information beneficial. And I invite all of you to take the opportunity to join the coffee family. Remember, the resources are of no cost to you, or my favorite four-letter word, which is free. And with that being said, thank you all again for attending. And I hope you found it interesting, enlightening.